Welcome everyone to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a topic that we know is on a lot of your minds. Maybe you're planning that big family reunion, or maybe you just really want to share the U.S. experience with your parents. We're talking about navigating the B2 visitor visa process for them. It can definitely feel like a maze, right? All those forms, the interview. But our mission today is simple. Make it clear, make it manageable for you. We want to cut through the noise.
That's exactly right. We're going to try and strip away some of that complexity, really focus on the essential steps, the documents you absolutely need, and, the key things to keep in mind. Everything from filling out the right forms to what actually happens at the interview and even, arriving at the airport, the port of entry. We're here to guide you through it, make it feel a bit less daunting.
Okay, perfect. Let's start right at the beginning then, the basics. What is a B2 visa for parents exactly? Is it just like for tourism, or does it cover family visits too?
Good question. So the B2 visa is specifically designed for temporary visits. That absolutely includes tourism, but also things like visiting family and friends, or even coming for important events, say a graduation or a wedding. But here's the single most crucial point, and this underpins everything else. It's a non-immigrant visa.
Non-immigrant. Okay, what does that really mean in practice?
It means the U.S. government operates under a legal presumption. It's often referred to under Section 214B of the Immigration and Nationality Act. They basically presume that everyone applying for a B2 visa actually intends to immigrate, to stay permanently. So the entire burden of proof is on the applicant, your parents, in this case to prove otherwise. They have to demonstrate strong ties to their home country and a clear intent to return after their temporary visit. It's fundamental.
Wow. Okay. So every single piece of this, every form, every answer to the interview, it all comes back to proving they will go home. It's not just about showing they want to visit, but proving they have to go back.
Precisely. Think of it like an invisible thread. That non-immigrant intent connects every document, every response. It's the core issue for the consular officers.
Got it. Now, here's something that trips a lot of people up. The invitation letter. People often think you need some kind of really official letter, maybe from a university or a formal sponsor. Is that actually the case for a B2?
That's a really interesting point and maybe a bit counterintuitive. According to consular officials themselves, those formal invitation letters, say from a university, they're actually not required for B2 applicants. And honestly, they often aren't seen as particularly helpful on their own. The focus stays firmly on the applicant's ties back home.
So you don't need one from an institution.
Exactly. However, and this is a big however, if you or your parents want an invitation letter, you absolutely can and probably should write one yourself. In fact, many legal groups strongly recommend doing this. A personal letter can really strengthen the application. It clarifies the purpose, the temporary nature of the visit.
Okay, that makes sense. So if you're writing that letter yourself, what needs to go in it? What makes it effective?
Right. You want it to be clear, concise, and written in English. It needs the invited person's full name, so your parents name their relationship to you, and the specific reason for the visit. Don't just say visit. Say, to attend my graduation ceremony on May 25th, 20XX, or to celebrate my 20th birthday on January 2nd and see the sights. Be precise. You should also include the exact proposed dates for their visit.
Okay, name, relationship, specific purpose, dates. What else?
You need to mention how the visit will be funded. If you're sponsoring, state that clearly, and you'll need to provide them with your financial documents, which we'll definitely get into. Also, the specific location where they'll be staying, including the full address, and an itinerary. Even a basic one is helpful, like week 1 in New York, week 2 visiting us in California. It shows a plan. Oh, and if you're a student, say on an F1 or J1 visa, definitely include your student status, your study dates, and copies of your immigration documents, like your I-20 form.
That's really practical advice. The itinerary adds a lot of credibility to the temporary visit idea.
Okay, so we've got the letter sorted. Let's unpack the next stage. The core documents and the financial prep for the actual visa application. This sounds like the really detailed part.
It definitely is. This is where being organized is super important. Several crucial steps here. First off, passports. Your parents' passports must be valid for at least 6 months beyond their intended stay in the U.S. Check those dates early. In some places, like India, they have schemes like Tatkal for faster passport issuance, maybe a week or so, but planning ahead avoids that stress. 6 months beyond the stay. Got it. What about money?
Okay, finances. If you're sponsoring their trip, the general advice is to have roughly $10,000 to $15,000 in savings. This shows you can genuinely support them. And here's a key tip. Consistent savings are better. Start saving early if you need to. Why? because sudden, large deposits right before applying can look suspicious to officers.
Like you just borrowed it to make the account look good?
Exactly. They might think the funds aren't really yours or readily available. Consistency looks much better. And third, something really critical, travel health insurance. Arrange this for your parents before they travel. U.S. medical costs are astronomical. You don't want an unexpected illness to become a financial nightmare.
Absolutely crucial point on the health insurance. And I like the tip about consistent savings shows stability. So beyond having that $10, $15K ballpark figure, what specific financial proof do I, as the sponsor, need to actually provide?
Right. You need solid proof of your financial stability. This usually includes a bank account balance letter from your bank. Make sure it's signed and stamped, showing your average balance and when the account was open. Check how long your bank takes to issue this. Also, your recent W-2 forms, those show your annual earnings. And recent pay stubs plus bank statements for maybe the last 6 months.
Okay, bank letter, W-2s, pay stubs, statements, anything else?
You might consider an affidavit of support, Form I-134. It's technically optional for B-2 visas, not like for immigrant visas where it's often required in binding. But it can strengthen the case. It's you formally stating you'll take financial responsibility. And if you're working here, say on an H-1B, L-1, F-1 OPT, or even if you have a green card, get an employment verification letter from your employer. It should confirm your job title, salary, and that you're currently employed.
And for student sponsoring?
Yeah, if you're an F-1 student, include that graduation invitation letter if applicable, plus copies of your F-1 visa stamp, your I-94 record, and your I-20 form. Finally, a cover letter, highly recommended. Address it to the visa officer, briefly summarize the visit's purpose, and list all the documents being submitted. It's like a roadmap for your application file.
That cover letter sounds like a great way to tie everything together neatly. Okay, documents gathered, finances sorted. What's the next big step in actually submitting the application?
The main event here is the DS-160 form. That's the official online application for non-immigrant visas. Each parent needs their own separate DS-160. And if you're helping them fill it out, which many people do, make sure you declare yourself as the preparer on the form. Honesty is key. There's a useful feature. Create family group application. It can save time by copying shared info, like addresses or travel plans, from one parent's application to the other's.
Oh, that family group option sounds handy. How long does the DS-160 usually take?
Plan for maybe 1 to 2 hours per application to do it carefully and accurately. And please, save your progress frequently. You don't want to lose everything if your internet glitches.
Good tip. Okay, DS-160 submitted. Then it's paying the fee and scheduling the interview, right?
Exactly. The B-2 visa application fee is currently $185 per person. And it's non-refundable, so double-check everything before you pay. After submitting the DS-160 and paying the fee, you'll need to schedule the visa interview appointment. This happens at the U.S. Embassy or consulate in your parents' home country.
How long does it usually take getting an appointment?
Wait times. They can vary massively. Could be a few weeks, could be several months. It really depends on the country and the specific consulate. So, again, planning way ahead is crucial. Don't wait until the last minute. Also, typically a few days before the actual interview, your parents will have a separate appointment for biometrics, fingerprints, and a photo. This is usually at a visa application center, or VAC.
Okay, biometrics first, then the main interview. This interview part, it sounds like the most stressful bit for many applicants. What actually happens there? And how can parents prepare, keeping that whole non-immigrant intent thing front and center?
You're right, it often causes the most anxiety, but preparation really helps manage that. The interview itself is usually very short, often just 90 seconds to maybe a few minutes. Seriously, it can be that quick. The consular officer's primary goal: assess if your parents are likely to overstay their visa or try to work illegally. Simple as that. So this is crunch time for demonstrating that non-immigrant intent. It's everything.
Well, how do they do that? How do they prove those ties back home in such a short time?
They need to show strong, credible ties. These fall into a few categories: business or professional ties. Think an employer statement confirming their job, how long they've worked there, salary, maybe even explicit permission for vacation time. Pay stubs help too. If they own a business, bring documentation for that. We've seen retired parents use pension documents effectively too, showing income tied to home.
Okay, job, business, pension. Tangible reasons to return. What else works?
Financial assets and real estate are huge. Property deeds for their home, mortgage receipts showing ownership, bank statements with significant funds in their home country, investment papers, things that physically tie them there. Then there are family and social ties, birth certificates of a spouse or children still living back home, marriage certificates, maybe even family photos showing deep connections. Letters from family can help too. And community ties, proof of involvement in local organizations, religious groups, maybe even political commitments. It paints a picture of an established life they need to return to.
So it's about building a whole picture, not just one single thing.
Sure.
Any tips for the actual interview day? How should they act?
Absolutely. First, tell him. Answer truthfully and give details. Avoid one-word answers. If asked about travel plans, mention specific cities, the itinerary you planned, not just visiting the U.S. If asked about their job, briefly explain what they do. Don't just give the title. And if they don't understand a question, it's okay to ask for clarification. Better than guessing.
That's good advice. What else?
Bring all the supporting documents neatly organized in a folder. Even if the officer doesn't ask for everything, having it ready shows you're prepared and serious. Dress professionally. Treat it like a formal interview. It shows respect for the process. And language, if your parents aren't fluent in English, that's fine. They can request an interview in their native language or sometimes ask for a translator provided by the consulate. Check the specific consulate's procedures for this.
Okay, native language interview is an option. Good to know. What kind of questions should they expect?
They should be ready for common ones like, why are you going to the U.S.? What places do you plan to visit? Who is paying for this trip? How will you cover expenses? Also, what does your son or daughter do in the U.S.? What do you do for a living back home? And the big one, what ties do you have that ensure you will return? Practicing answers to these out loud can make a big difference in their confidence.
Makes sense. Preparation is key.
Yeah.
So let's say everything goes well, the visa's approved, stamp in the passport, are they good to go? Journey over.
Not quite. That's a really important distinction to make. Getting the visa is a huge step, yes, but it's not a guarantee of entry into the U.S. The visa allows them to travel to a U.S. port of entry, usually the airport, and request admission from a Customs and Border Protection or CBP officer.
Request admission. Okay, so what should they know before they even book the flight?
Rule number 1, do not book flights until that visa is actually stamped in their passport. Things can get delayed. Now, about the visa itself. A B1, B2 visa is often valid for up to 10 years, allowing multiple entries. But, and this confuses people, the visa's expiration date is just the last day they can use it to enter the U.S. The actual length of time they're allowed to stay on any given trip is decided by the CBP officer at the airport.
Ah, okay, so the visa date isn't how long they can stay.
Correct. The CBP officer determines the authorized stay, usually granting up to a maximum of 6 months for B2 visitors. This authorized period gets recorded on their I-94 arrival departure record. Nowadays, this is almost always electronic and you can look it up online. Your parents can legally stay for the entire duration shown on that I-94, even if their visa stamp expires while they're here. The I-94 is what matters for their status inside the U.S.
Okay, I-94 dictates the stay duration. What happens to that airport interview with the CBP officer? What should they expect there?
It's usually a brief interview. The CBP officer wants to verify their identity, confirm the purpose of their visit matches the visa, and again, assess their intent to leave. They should answer honestly and clearly, just like at the consulate. Be consistent. Common questions are similar. What's the purpose of your trip? How long are you planning to stay? Where will you be staying? How are you supporting yourself?
And this is where that preconceived intent issue can come up again, right?
Exactly. This is critical at the port of entry. Your parents must not arrive with the intention of changing their status immediately after entry, like applying for a green card right away. If CBP or later USCIS suspects preconceived intent, basically, that they use the temporary visa as a trick to get in and stay permanently or the consequences are severe. It could mean visa revocation, being put into removal proceedings, or getting a permanent mark on their record for misrepresentation. Applications for a change of status filed within 90 days of arriving on a temporary visa are especially scrutinized for this.
Wow. So maintain that temporary visitor stance clearly all the way through arrival. Can CBP actually deny entry even with a valid visa?
Yes, they absolutely can. The CBP officer has the final authority at the port of entry. They can deny entry if they suspect misrepresentation, immigration intent, believe the person lacks sufficient funds, or if there are past immigration violations. The outcome varies. Sometimes they might allow the person to withdraw their application for admission, which avoids a formal removal and re-entry ban. But in other cases, it could lead to expedited removal, which usually comes with a 5-year ban from returning to the U.S.
So the stakes are high, even at the airport. Okay, let's touch on the less ideal outcomes. What if the visa is denied back at the consulate stage?
Denials often happen under that Section 214B, failure to convince the officer of non-immigrant intent. If that happens, there's no mandatory waiting period before reapplying. But it's really crucial to understand why it was denied. You need to address those specific concerns with stronger evidence or clearer explanations before trying again. Just reapplying with the same documents usually won't work.
Address the reasons for denial. Makes sense. What about the worst-case scenario? Someone overstays their authorized visit. They stay past the date on their I-94.
Overstaying is a very serious immigration violation. Staying even 1 day past the I-94 expiration date without getting an extension or changing status means they start accruing unlawful presence, and the consequences build up. Overstaying by more than 180 days but less than a year triggers a 3-year bar from re-entering the U.S. once they leave. Overstaying for 1 year or more triggers a 10-year bar.
3 years, 10 years. Those are significant bans.
They are. And beyond the bars, an overstay can lead to deportation if discovered while still in the U.S., and it severely damages their chances for any future U.S. visas. It creates a permanent negative record.
That sounds incredibly difficult to fix. If someone finds themselves in that situation, what should they do?
If an overstay happens, the absolute first step should be to consult with an experienced immigration attorney immediately. Time is critical. There might be options, depending on the specifics. Things like voluntary departure might be possible, which avoids a formal deportation order. In very limited cases, like maybe being an immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, adjustment of status could still be a theoretical possibility, but overstays complicate things immensely. Honestly, the best advice is prevention. Track that I-94 date carefully. Apply for extensions well in advance if needed and eligible. Don't let it happen. Okay, so let's try to bring this all together with some direct advice for your parents, focusing on those key moments, the interview and arrival.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. What are the absolute must-dos for them?
All right. At the visa interview. First, really encourage them to be honest, confident, and clear in their answers. Look the officer in the eye. They need to clearly state the specific purpose of their visit, tourism, reunion, graduation, whatever it is, and convey that it's temporary. Emphasize those strong ties back home. Talk about their job, their house, other family, their pension, whatever anchors them there and requires them to return. Make it concrete. Have all the documents ready, organized, even if they aren't asked for everything. Just being prepared helps. And if asked about money, clearly explain who's betting and confirm the funds are available. No ambiguity.
Okay, clarity, ties, documents, funding. Got it. What about when they land in the U.S. at the port of entry?
Right, at the airport. Remind them again. The CBP officer decides how long they can stay, not the visa sticker's date. The I-94 is key. They must maintain that consistent message. This is a temporary visit. No hints about wanting to stay, looking for work, nothing like that. Consistency is crucial. Make absolutely sure they have that travel health insurance paperwork handy, just in case, but mainly know it's active. Be ready to state their intended length of stay clearly and have a plausible departure plan in mind, even if flights aren't booked yet. And the absolute golden rule, never, ever misrepresent anything. Purpose, intent, duration, honesty is the only policy here.
That's fantastic, really comprehensive advice. This deep dive has covered so much ground from the very beginning right through to arrival and potential pitfalls. We really hope this equips you, the listener, with the knowledge you need to help your parents navigate this B2 visa process with more confidence and hopefully success. Bringing families together, even for temporary visits, is so important.
Absolutely. It's a detailed process, but manageable with the right preparation and understanding.
Well, all the best to everyone embarking on this journey. And we will meet again with another important subject in our next deep dive.